essential attribute, but each succeeding one has the attributes of all the previous ones. So in there you've got the idea of kind of common descent and types of behavior and organs and things being passed on and things like that, and everything being built up from the simple to the very complex. Then we're moving on to the Greeks. Now, the Greeks were famous for their philosophies, and there's the guy Pythagoras that you've probably read about in maths, and you're familiar with his triangles and Pythagoras' theorem, but also he was very interested in the spiritual realm, and there's much kind of occultic stuff which comes out from things which he's taught, as well as the mathematical things. And where he got his knowledge from was actually travelling a great deal and finding out what other people were saying in different parts of the world. And here are some quotes. Pythagoras was the hero of Galati and the Brahmins. So the Brahmins are the Hindus, and this quote is saying that this is where Pythagoras got some of his ideas, is from Hinduism. Again, Pythagoras travelled widely, studying the esoteric teachings of the Egyptians, Assyrians, and the Brahmins. So these are all people who believed in a kind of a pantheon of gods. Again, some more quotes. The analogies between Greek Pythagorean philosophy and the Sankhya school are very obvious. Sir William Jones, pioneer of the Western study of Sanskrit. Also, it's more likely that Pythagoras was influenced by India, that's Hinduism, than by Egypt. Almost all the theories, religious, philosophical and mathematical, taught by the Pythagoreans were known in India in the 6th century BC. So you can see there that the Greek thinking very much has its origins in some of the Hindu thinking coming out of India. And there you've got Plato, who built on the work of Pythagoras, and again there's the evolutionary thinking that you can see in his writing. These are the principles on which living creatures change and have changed into one another. The transformation depending on the loss or gain of understanding and folly. So not quite like our understanding of evolution today, but this idea that there is common descent, that the simpler forms of life have turned into the more complicated ones. And then here's what one scholar said. He said, "I very confidently affirm, if anyone will make himself familiar with the old Indian wisdom, religion of the Vedas and the Upanishads, he will shake himself free from the academic attitude and limiting Western concept of philosophy, and will then read Plato's dialogues. He will hardly fail to realize that both are occupied with the self-same search, inspired by the same faith, drawn upwards by the same vision." And then we had Aristotle, and if you remember when I looked at Darwin, he was able to say that it was Aristotle that he saw the first signs of evolution in his writings. He said he saw evolution foreshadowed in Aristotle's writings. You have Anaximander, and he said humans originally resembled another type of animal, namely fish. Empedocles says the greater part of the members of animals were generated by chance. Now that's somewhat like evolution as well, that says that new functionality comes about by random mutation, and it's then passed on, and only the fittest survive. And in Mark's talk, if you missed it on Monday, he was saying that natural selection describes very well the survival of the fittest, and that's a true principle, that those things which are fittest survive. What he said he doubted that could be explained by Darwin and evolution was the arrival of the fittest, and that's that random mutation can cause the great variety that we see here today. Again, you'll see natural selection in this next quote. that many races must have been able to beget and continue their kind, for in the case of every species that exists, either craft or courage or speed has from the beginning of its existence preserved it. And that's Empedocles again. He said that all souls change into every sort of animal. Again, common descent. Okay, and here's a quote from the Bible, and this is talking about Athens, the city where these Greek guys were bringing out their philosophies. And this quote sometimes amuses me. It says, "All the Athenians and foreigners who lived there spent all their time doing nothing but talking about and listening to the latest ideas." Can you imagine that, having a society where you could do nothing but just talk about ideas, and somehow you'd make a living out of doing that? Well, that's apparently what they did. But you know, today Edinburgh is called the Athens of the North, because Edinburgh has been deeply influenced by these philosophies in a time called the Enlightenment. And we touched on that word enlightenment in the beginning of this talk, talking about it being the process by which a person realizes that they are in fact God. And that's something which was there in Hinduism, but it's also there in another more esoteric kind of faith, and that's in Freemasonry. In Freemasonry, there's again a kind of an evolutionary thing where you progress towards the top by working your way through various degrees. And the way that you pass through from one degree to another is often that somebody is shut outside of a room, and they knock on the door, and an answer comes from a question comes behind the door, and this person says, "What do you seek?" And the initiate will say, "I seek more light." And they're looking for a spiritual enlightenment in doing that. Now, in the time of the Enlightenment, it was the Freemason lodges that were actually the centre point of all the discussions that were going on between the great thinkers in Edinburgh. And here's a quote about Freemasonry. "In the Scottish Rite, you will be taught that our ancient ancestors who knew all the mysteries left enough traces so that we today, with diligent labour and teaching, may renew and bring them to light for your enlightenment. We now come to the great symbols of Pythagoras. Our symbols have descended to us from the Aryans, and many were invented by Pythagoras, who studied in Egypt and Babylon." Again, Egypt, Babylon, India, great centres of polytheism and pantheism, and what I'm broadly describing as a paganistic kind of philosophy or view of the world. Now, in the Bible, it talks about this kind of enlightenment process, and if you're in any doubt of what's behind Freemasonry, you could read a book called Morals and Dogma, written by Albert Pike, who was one of the Grand Pontiffs of Freemasonry in the Scottish Rite. And this book, you can buy it on eBay fairly easily, and it just goes through some of what's in the higher degrees of Freemasonry. And one of the rules in Freemasonry is that there's two main rules when you join into a lodge, and one is that you must believe that there's a supreme being. You must believe that there's some kind of a force or a creator out there. So you couldn't really be a Freemason and be an atheist. And the other is that once you have that belief, you must not talk about it. So you must believe it, but you must not talk about what you believe in that subject. It's off limits. And the reason for that is that when you get higher up in Freemasonry, they tell you who this being is. And this is what Albert Pike said: "Lucifer, the light bearer, strange name, strange and mysterious name to give to the spirit of darkness. Lucifer, son of the morning, is he who bears the light, and with its splendour intolerable blinds feeble sensual or selfish souls. Doubt it not, for traditions are full of divine revelations and inspirations, and inspiration is not of one age nor of one creed. Plato and Philo also were inspired." And so there's Albert Pike, who, a leading Freemason, saying that really where the wisdom of Freemasonry comes from is this fallen angel called Lucifer, though he wouldn't see him necessarily as a fallen angel. What the Bible says about Lucifer is how you